What's up? What's up? Happy Sunday. It's the first day of the week. Welcome back to another. I don't know what these are called. These are just live streams. Maybe I should make up a name for this series or something. But in this live stream, I'm gonna show you guys like how I go through my audio pros processing workflow. How I get the sound to sound like pretty good, pretty decent. The different things that I do, the different things that I like, the steps I take, because there's certain steps that I take. And without further ado, let's get to it. So, before I get to that, now the first thing you want to do is like before you start any type of serious editing for audio, get good headphones. Get good headphones or get good monitors. You don't want things like Beats or Bose or anything of that nature, because what they do is that they bump up a whole lot of bass, or something might another brand might bump up a whole lot of the um high spectrum, the higher end in audio, like the 10K and etc., and make it sound a little eerie. You want something that is as close to flat as possible, something like the Yamaha's um, HS5s for monitors, or you want something like um, these are the Bayern Dynamic Focus. Yeah, you don't need like the DT 990s, but you can get like the DT 700 Pros, the 770s, if I'm saying the right name. But that's a good line. Or you can get like the Audio Technica, if you're kind of like on the beginning of the audio processing. But just get good headphones. Ooh, sweating already. It's hot in here. Yeah, so let's show you the steps that I take. Let's go. Good. Now, you guys probably, yeah, so we're gonna do this file right here, but the program I use to edit is iZotope. Now, I recommend iZotope because of the plugins that it comes with, but I understand that it is extremely expensive. But if you have a software, audio editing software with the same format, you can just follow these steps. But I recommend iZotope. Where is my iZotope? Wait, how did it disappear from the? Do I still have iZotope? I mean, I should. I paid for it. Here it is. I don't know how that is. What it? Yeah. So this is what I use. All right. I don't know what that was that I was working on, but first I open up the file. So we're gonna do this. Yeah. So the good thing about iZotope, it shows you the spectrum. Um, it shows you different frequencies and etc. over where everything is. Yeah, this is why iZotope is great. Not only that, it shows you at this end. Let me make sure. It shows you a whole lot of different plugins that it has built in. Like you can do things for ambiance match, like breath control if the person's too breathy. Deeply declick. Now declick is like really good. Now if there's a lot of clicks and like little clicks like that, it can remove it. No, that's this one, mouth declick. Now that's what you get. Now when you have a really good mic and the mic is close, you start to pick up a lot of extra mouth sounds that it isn't really sound that it doesn't really sound that appealing. when you're listening to it on headphones, things like and stuff. You don't really want to hear that stuff. So this can help remove some of that. It has different things for musicians like guitar denoise. This is the key one that I use, dialogue isolate, and I'll show you how that works. Things like de-rustle, if you're outside, de-reverb, this is definitely what I'll be using because of this audio right here. It was in a non-treated room and it sounds so bad. Hopefully it plays while I'm live. Let's see. You guys can hear that. So let me fix some settings. Okay, so the input device, let's do the output device as streaming so we all can hear. Let's do okay. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning. Okay. So tell me about...
Okay. Now you can hear, but I can't hear.
About childhood, Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like?
Let's do input. Let's keep it as universal audio if I'm speaking into it. But for both of us to hear, okay, so we're gonna just switch the audio for streaming right now so both of us can hear it. Let's set universal audio. It's gonna sound a little weird for right now, but for...
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
So that both of us can hear it.
So tell me about childhood, Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your...
Hey Sasha, how you doing? So, I can't hear the reverb. Reason being is that I have these right here. Hold on, let me do the big screen. I have these right here. These are the Shure in-ear monitors. They're really good. They're really good. They're not good for editing though, because that's why I gave that speech in the beginning that you need to have really good monitors or headphones. The reason being that if you're editing to something that is already boosted or something that doesn't really... Headphones are speakers that are boosted or they are EQ'd a certain way and you can't hear everything. You're only editing to what you hear. So get something like good headphones or good speakers that you can hear everything. So something that's like flat as possible. So when I put these on now, I should be able to hear all of the reverb. Let's go back. Okay.
Family dynamic like, and what were you...
Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. So
the story from the beginning. Okay. So tell me about childhood.
And the good thing is that there are two voices in here. So
let's start the story from the beginning.
I cannot EQ. There's no such thing as a universal EQ to make everyone sound good. So what I have to do is split these up so that I can do the basic like de-reverb and etc. to everyone, but when it comes to like EQ and probably dialogue isolate, I would have to do it specifically for each person that's speaking. Yep, so fun times. So something like this.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up?
And you see, this kind of makes it a little bit more difficult because the other person is speaking while another person is speaking. So there's the interviewer and the interviewee. The interviewee is speaking while the interviewer is speaking. So instead of chopping each thing up, like Isotope has an awesome feature that it can separate the voices for you. So if I I haven't used this feature in a while. What is the feature called? All right. So let's just do the basics first. So the first thing we want to do is de-reverb because everyone is very reverberant. So I will click de-reverb first, do preview.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha.
Okay.
How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were
So that's what it sounds like with the de-reverb on. And if I click bypass and preview,
Okay, so let's start
that's the original.
the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay.
That's a big difference. Now, the thing about using plugins that you must be keen, and I'm going to keep driving home the point, you need great headphones because if you be too aggressive with this, you will introduce artifacts and it'll sound like a robot is doing all of the processing, which is what you don't want. You want to put ever so much until you get to the point of it sounding heavily processed and then bring it down a little bit. So where is this? 9.5. Let's do 16. Let's see how that sounds.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
As you see,
So tell me about childhood Sasha.
you don't want that sound. That sounds really bad. Now it sounds artificial and it sounds unnatural. So that is too aggressive. Let's see how 10 sounds.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
That still sounds a little too aggressive. 9.5 sounded pretty good.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
Okay. As you see with her voice, you get more reverb because different timbres of people's voices and etc. It can also mic placement plays a big part in why you get more reverb with the other person. Also, quick note, 2 microphones were used, one on each talent for this particular project. So all of that can play a massive part in why you're getting these issues. But the thing is, that's a real world scenario. Sometimes you can't have full control of the space that you're in. So that's why you need tools like this to help you with post processing, and it's okay if you have a little reverb in there, just not too much. Like if I had a choice between a little reverb and sounding artificial, I'll definitely take the reverb, 100%. So let's do 10. See how that sounds. Preview.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like?
Okay, that's not bad. Let's render that. Let's just see how it sounds, because it's layers. Everything requires layers. So we started with a D reverb. I do want to find that feature though. How it separates the voices. What is that called? Do I have to do a quick Google? I do. Uh, so let me Google how to separate goals in isotope. I cannot type fast. RX10. 10 years later. It's dialogue. Is that what it's called? Vocal isolation? Voice to noise remove. You know what? Let's just go through it. Let's press some buttons. Thank God for undo. What does deconstruct do? Some of these things I've never used in my life. I don't know what deconstruct does. Dialogue contour. Let's see what this does.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like?
Oh, that sounds pretty good. I might start using that. Interesting. Dialogue isolate. That makes the most sense. Preview.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha.
No, I'm bugging. Dialogue isolate is what we're going to use after we separate the voices. Because what dialogue isolate is, it tries to use the algorithm to pick out the talking or the speaking, and it tries to like fully suppress the background noise. It's kind of like a noise gate, similar. But again, you can't go too heavy on that because it will sound very artificial. Dude, am I bugging? What is that feature called? And I guarantee if I wasn't streaming, this will be coming back to me. Boom, 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 boom. Eh, I'll come back to it. All right, so most of the time I do de-reverb. Then I would do something like a dialogue isolate. So with dialogue isolate, let's go back to that. Right here. We're finished with de-reverb. Let's preview. Oh, and the thing about
Okay,
this,
so let's start.
the thing about iZotope is that you need a pretty good processor as well, because the more plugins that you put on, the more your computer will feel it. But if you have like an M series, like a newer M series, it should be fine. You don't have to worry about it. So make sure you guys see that.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
This is
So
too
tell me about
aggressive.
childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your
Way too aggressive. It's not only cutting out the background, it's also cutting out some of the ambiance, and it's also cutting out some of the frequencies from her voice. So that's what makes it sound a little fake. Let's do -1.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So
-10.
okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
All you gotta do is play with it. Play with it until it sounds.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about
Let's
childhood
preserve
Sasha.
some of the
How did you
ambiance.
grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like? Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
Yep. So what it is I'm just going back and forth, back
Okay,
and
so let's
forth
start the story from the beginning.
to make sure it
So
sounds
tell me
more
about
natural.
childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
Okay. I like 91 as ambiance preservation. The voices don't sound too crazy. Let's play with the sensitivity now.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood,
Sasha's voice sound pretty good.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
You can always
Okay.
bypass.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
Okay. That sounds.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
That sounds okay-ish. But This is just dialogue isolate. There's more things
So
to
tell me
do
about
to this audio.
childhood, Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood.
All right, let's render that. And the cool thing about isotope is if you don't like something, you can always, right here, these are all the steps that were taken in this audio processing. So if you don't like something, you can always remove it. So depending on how it sounds in the end, I can always go back and redo it. All right, so I don't hear any mouthy clicks because their mouths weren't too close. They were boom microphones. So they were a pretty good distance away from the microphone. The next thing I'll most likely do is increase the volume, because if you're looking at the waveforms, they seem to be pretty low. And for YouTube, if you're doing this for YouTube, it depends on what you're doing it for. Certain programs, you need a certain volume or a certain dB, so the listener can hear it properly. So I can see that these waveforms are too little. Well, the good thing is that this was recorded in wave format, so it isn't a compressed audio format like a MP3 and etc. Wave is closer to raw. I still can't. I would love for them to come out with a raw audio format, but I think probably will chew through memory. So the next thing I'm going for is let's do a leveler. Before I do the leveler, let's probably do loudness control. Yeah, so loudness control. The true peak is going to be around -4. That means no matter how loud it gets, if someone starts laughing uncontrollably or screaming, it won't go past -4. YouTube, I see YouTube likes it around like the negative, anywhere from like -6 to like -4 is a good volume for YouTube. And the LKFS, I see that -18 is good for YouTube as well. So I'll keep these settings, I'll go render it, and you'll see that the volume is drastically increased.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood, Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
I can hear it very clear. So what we'll do is that we'll go back to de-reverb, go back to the de-reverb step. We'll do the loudness first. Then we'll do de-reverb. And the cool thing about isotope is that the settings stay the same when I close them out. So I don't have to go through these settings all over again if I call this a time machine. If I go back in the time machine, I don't have to click it and then set up each plugin all over again. And let's do dialogue isolate, and let's just see how that sounds with loudness control first.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood, Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
I think I like that better. It sounds much better. Sounds much better. So let's do dialogue isolate after loudness control. That sounds good. Uh, and the cool thing is that this is so easy to use. Isotope it's a little expensive, but it's very easy to use. And you can actually, like, let me go back to dialogue isolate. If you go to dialogue, close that, dialogue isolate. Say that you have like a podcast that is twice a week. All right, let's do twice a month. And it's in the same location and you have the same voices speaking, like the same people that are in the podcast. You can actually come in here and save certain presets. Like I have a specific preset for when I use a SM7B. Yeah, you can save presets in here, and then if you have to do a setting, edit every week, every 2 weeks or whatever, this just makes it much easier because you just boom, 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 come and hit the presets, boom, render, and that's it. You're good to go. You can probably edit an hour-long podcast in under 5 minutes. So this is good. This sounds cool. After this, I don't really hear.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your
There's a little room noise. I don't know if I want to get rid of that because the voices sound as natural as
So
possible.
tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood.
What's up, Tristan? Yep. Isotope is nice. Like I said again, it's expensive, but it's nice. It's really nice. After this, no. I feel some sort of way. I need to find that plugin that separates the voices. I'm sorry. I need to find that because that is going to upset me. That is going to make things 10 times easier when you put on the EQ. Isotope RS10. Let's see. An interview. All I'm getting is a whole bunch of voice isolations. Okay, let's go to Isotope. Let's go to the actual website, and let's go through the plugins, the different plugins, because this is gonna get me upset. Not really upset, like flip tables over, but I won't be able to sleep at night. That type of upset. Okay, let's see the features. Text navigation. There it is. That's the first thing. What is that? Okay, all right. Let's mute you. What is the plugin called? Ah, there it is. It's right here. It's not a plugin. It's right here. This little button right here. This is the magic button. So you click that and what? It didn't show me anything. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So you click that little magic button right there and it shows you, it separates the speakers based on their voices. So speaker one.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little? Okay, so let's start
And this is speaker
the
two.
story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken. Okay.
So tell me about child.
Okay, so this doesn't seem to be that big of a deal, but dude, when I get to EQ, I'll show you how much of a big deal this is. Because in EQing, as you clearly hear, both of their voices are different. So the EQ will be 100% different for both of their voices. So let's fine tune this to make sure speaker one and speaker two are separate and that they're not overlapping each other. So who do they have as speaker one? Let's start from the beginning.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like?
Okay, so they got this part wrong. Right here is also speaker two, or speaker one.
Okay, so let's start. And what were you like as a little? Okay, so let's start.
And all of this as well.
And what were you like as a little? Okay, so let's start.
And it actually, oops. I wish there was a way to save it. I haven't used this in such a long time. I haven't been using a lot of dialogue. So it's right here and right here.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child? Okay, so let's start
There it is.
the story from the beginning.
All right, so since I'm EQing now, I would do EQ just for these highlighted spaces. So this is her voice. Now we can go a little while to bring out some of the frequencies in her voice. And then do the same thing for speaker number two. Now, if you have multiple speakers, like 3 or 4, hopefully you're getting paid for this, because if you're trying to do this as a passion project, you got 4 or 5 speakers, it's going to be a little crazy. Oh, let me not neglect my comments. Okay. Does it work for more than 2 vocals? Yes, it works for multiple voice. So if you got like 10 speakers, it'll do the same thing for all 10, because it'll listen to the different frequencies and it'll separate them like that. And you'll just have to go in and do some fine tuning. I'm not sure how well it would work if everyone is like talking over each other. if you have one person, you know how it has like those running conversations. Like one person is talking and then the other person like, oh yeah, 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 da, 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 da. And then the other person, yeah, 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 oh yeah. I don't know how well it'll do with that. I could test it out though, because my friends are kind of like that. The other comment is also you need new audio to test edits. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's preview. Let's EQ just to speaker one's voice.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
All right. I can hear. I'm gonna just bump it in 10K because I like a little airiness. Her voice is more of a alto range. Like if she was a singer, that would be more alto into the tenor section. So she might not have a whole lot of 10K, but let's see how that sounds.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like?
I mean, that sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty decent for her voice, for speaker one's voice. It's clear. You can hear what
Okay,
she's
so
saying.
let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay.
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little?
I think I like that one. I think I like this setting. She's not nasally and she's not sibilant, so I can play more in these higher frequency ranges with her voice. When we get to the other speaker, then I'll most likely have to cut these out. So let's hear this one more time, or two more times, maybe three more times. Who knows?
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's keep that for her voice. Let's render that. Okay, so you see, only speaker one's voice was EQ'd, not speaker two. So with this, you can now go to speaker two and you can do the edits just for speaker two's voice. Dude, this saves so much time. Let's just make sure that this is speaker two.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken. Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken. Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood,
Right, you can stop playing though. All right, let's do another EQ and let's do this EQ for speaker two. All right, so this will be speaker two's EQ. So let's see.
From the
Preview.
beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha.
Do I need to?
How did you
okay.
grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about
Yeah, but I don't want you playing all of that though. I guess I'll have to wait for RX11 to like only play the highlighted sections.
from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood.
Okay, so the second speaker's voice, as you see, is kind of, her voice is kind of nasally. So to cut that out, you can cut out the nasally sound is more in the 400 to 600 range. So you just have to play with it. So this is band two, and here is where I'm seeing the frequencies, where it's right here. This is 358, and I got it cut out at -3 dB. So let's go to probably 392. Let's see how that sounds.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So in childhood, I'd say I was a little more outspoken.
From the beginning.
I think I like that. Now the key to this, you don't want to change the person's voice completely. You want them to sound as natural as possible. You just want to cut out the background distractions. So leave their voice as original as possible. That's the key thing. And Isotope, with all of these features, it helps you do that. So now you can see. Now I just did. How many things I did? I just did like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 4. Yeah, 6 things. No, 5 things. Because you can't count initial state. So I just did 5 things. Now imagine those guys that actually do like the spectral, like this. There's some people that actually do the spectral. I don't do it that much. This is called spectral recovery, and then you have the spectral repair. So these hot spots, these are actually where the frequencies are. It's just a spectrogram, and you can do some really cool things with the spectral diagram. It shows you exactly where the noise is. Like if you have a low rumbling fan noise or a AC, you will see like a constant line, heavy solid line down here, and you can just like take that out. But there's no need to go and do all of that. Now you can kind of see why audio editing professionally is so expensive because this was just what, like, how long is this video? Like 20 seconds maybe?
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
start the story from the
20-second audio clip, and it took almost 30 minutes to listen to it and do a little bit of edits. Yeah, it can get really taxing. But as I said, with isotope, once you get if you hear a particular voice, or if you are recording a particular speaker in the same location, you can just set presets, and you can just load those presets, and you can do all of this in like 2 minutes. But the hardest thing is doing it initially, like the first. So yeah, that is it. Let's save this out, and then let's do a compare. Oh, this is edited. A comparison. Where are my words? Edited. All right, let's close this. And
Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
Okay.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. Okay, so let's start the story from the beginning.
this is the original one.
So tell me about childhood Sasha. How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Okay. So
How did you grow up? What was your family dynamic like? And what were you like as a little child?
Yeah, so let me know if it's I can hear a difference, but let me know if you can hear a big difference on your side in internet world. So that's basically, hold on, let me change my audio for streaming. Okay, good. Now I'm back to normal. That's basically what I do. I wouldn't do it like so crazy as I did it online. I'm looking on Google trying to figure out what is what. Most of the time I know what I'm doing, but online for some reason it's like added pressure. You become a whole different person. Yeah, so that's basically what I do. It sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds great. So yeah, Tristan says crazy difference. Yeah. And the thing is, when you now before you get into the editing process, what you want to do is get everything right at the source first. So get the right microphone, get the right recorder, because the better it is coming into the recorder, the easier the editing process would be. Now, if you have a crazy scenario that you don't have control of anything, then it is what it is. You're going to have to depend on the editing software. But it can get really, really technical, and it can get really, really difficult with the editing software, especially if it's like really bad audio. Just throw the whole thing away and just do it over again. Or just pay a professional that knows what he's doing, and he'll technically try to fix it for you. I'm rambling. I guess you get the point. Get it right at the source, and you wouldn't have to spend crazy amounts of money in post-processing, or crazy amount of time if you're doing it yourself. Yeah, so that's it for today. Make sure I got no more comments. Yep. So have a good one. I'm gonna catch you guys next week with something else. I don't want to I don't want to spoil what I have for you next week, but come back and you'll see. Have a good Sunday. Peace.